Welcome, everyone, to the IBME UBU show. I'm your host, Antoine Valentin, and today I'm really excited to welcome our guest, Angela Richard. Angela and I met at Pepperdine as we were both in the Masters of Management and Leadership program. And this is the first time we're speaking. Angela, welcome since then. And I'm excited to hear all about what you've been doing since then and what were some of the reasons why you started on or you continued your leadership journey at Pepperdine, et cetera. So for starters, do you mind just sort of giving a brief overview of your current role? I know that, again, you changed from one employer to the next, to another one about 10 months or so ago. You spent 10 years at Collins Aerospace. So can you just talk a little bit about your profession and what you've been doing primarily for the in your career?
Sure. Hi, and Antoine, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a really kind of cool opportunity. So again, thank you for having me. But let's see. So my background is primarily in the trade compliance area. So I started off as an entry level person in the trade compliance world. I've been in trade compliance now for 14 years. Mainly in the aerospace industry. Like you said, I was there for 13 years. And as many people know, the COVID impacted the aerospace industry quite a bit, right? We saw a lot of that in our airports, just in general, the business. It took a hit in a way that it didn't really, it changed the environment. And although it's still really good, they still have their some issues. But I got caught up in a voluntary separation, and so they went through a couple of those. And unfortunately, I got caught up in that most recently, which prompted me to have to switch gears and reevaluate myself, reinvent myself a little bit, kind of get back out there in the hiring world environment, which was very tough time. But I can tell you, though, in general, over the years, I really had a great appreciation for where I started out at after school, after college, and then where I've ended up at. Because we're straight out of college, it was kind of the thing in my family was that you went into manufacturing, right? You went into factory work. So I did just that, followed my parents down that path. And unfortunately, though, it really played out very well in my career because I spent time in that manufacturing environment and got to see the operations, the processes, things that transpired just in that environment. And then soon after my bachelor's, well, I should say my master's, my first master's, I found a job in trade compliance. It was a very unique opportunity where they started up this new hub in Ohio, and they took in a group of people that had a great interest in trade compliance but didn't have hardly any experience and put us through a 2-week boot camp. So it was very intense, and they wouldn't let us to touch an account until we graduated from that boot camp. So it was really kind of a unique opportunity there. And from there, my career advanced years over year, and now I'm in the corporate world where I act as a senior trade compliance manager for the business. What I do is I look at the rules and regulations that are laid out by the different government authorities, and then I take those and I find out, how it impacts the business, what the business has to do to comply with those rules and regulations. I mean, many of us know, the challenges that are going on with China and Russia and in trade. And so we have to be very careful, and we are very much involved as trade compliance people, professionals. And so that is primarily a lot of what my role is, and just helping the business to build efficient processes that where compliance is a piece of that. And so that we never get in trouble, right? Nobody goes to jail. So that is how my career has evolved. And during that time, so when I was in my manufacturing role, I decided one day I was like, this cannot be the rest of my life. So I quit one day and I said, I'm going to college. Off to college, I put myself through a bachelor's. From there, I've uh, managed to obtain three masters, two with Pepperdine and one with another university. And so I'm a lot like you, I feel like. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm just very curious and always want to be learning something. And I feel like that's a big theme there at Pepperdine. And so interesting enough, though, during my career path, I was out in California for a little bit, had been relocated out there, and I met, I think it's Sherry Blondell. She's with the law side of Pepperdine, the business or yeah, the law school. And so she encouraged me to try the dispute resolution program. And I had come in contact with her for totally different reasons. And then she introduced me to Pepperdine while I was out there. And I absolutely fell in love. Just the people, the professors, the fellow students, learning about dispute resolution was changed a lot in my life because I looked at things differently, how to manage conflict much differently. And then soon thereafter, I thought I was done with, that was my second master's. I thought I was done. And then we got hit with COVID. And so we all got, shut down, kept in our homes. And I was like, what am I going to do with myself? Um, it's just me and my husband. And so I said, well, at that time, my company paid 100% tuition. I was very blessed to have that. And so I decided I'll go back to Pepperdine. They have an online program, the MSML program. And that one right there, I felt like was the biggest transformation of all. It just really dug into some core parts of my life that I needed to get to that next level. Being at where I am at this stage of my life and being in corporate, I felt like that just was much needed. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you for that summary. There's so much there that I want to explore further and just get a better understanding of. I was going to ask about your education. Very impressive. Again, it's hard enough to get one master's degree. You got three, which is really, again, rare and unique. I don't know what percentage of the population has three master's degrees. Talk to me about, the master's in dispute resolution. I remember learning a little bit about dispute resolution in one of our courses, MSML courses, and becoming very intrigued. And that sounds like this was the first master's program from Pepperdine. So tell me more about that specifically, sort of what you learned and how you're able to apply that to your corporate or maybe even personal life.
Yeah, sure. So in trade compliance, one of our biggest complaints is that we're trying to get the business buy-in, right? That trade compliance is important. We're always thought of after the fact, like after somebody gets in trouble. We're sort of like the legal department, like they don't need you until they're in trouble. Um, and so it is very difficult. One, trying to keep up with the government regulations. Two, trying to uh, understand them, even as a trade professional, can be very tough to understand what it is the government's asking you for. And then three, try to translate that into something that the business can digest, right? What does that mean for the business, and what do we have to do? And so in so many instances, and even today at a corporate, in this corporate role and how far along we've come in trade compliance, it's still a battle to get the different groups on board with what you're trying to do for the better of the company. And so you're constantly up against conflict. But during that time in that program, it really did help me to understand people better. We had to go through these simulations, and it was really just about being fair. One, be fair And nobody has to be the winner, right? Nobody has to win the whole pie. So it could be split up amongst the parties and everybody comes out as a winner. And then considering people's feelings. So in my past, I've, because of my past, I have been really good at putting a wall up and closing myself off and not, I guess, not being as considerate of feelings as I should have been. And so that really did open my world up to people and building relationships and seeing them for truly what they value and what they believe in. And that tends, and being more cooperative like that, more understanding, you get you're able to get what you want better, right? It might not be 100%, but you're going to get a lot more of what you're asking for in the long run. So,
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting. You talked about some of the simulations. I remember oftentimes dispute resolution, the example was a divorce where you
mhm.
have two parties, ending a marriage and then needing someone to step in and help to sort of act as a uh, what's
Mediator.
mediator, thank you, to
Yeah.
help. And the interesting thing you said about feelings, we know from our personal lives, obviously, whether it's at home or in the workplace, when our emotions get involved, it's a lot harder to make rational decisions. So it's understandable that in a divorce situation, both parties probably have some very strong emotions. And talk to me about the value that third party mediator brings, being unbiased and also not having the emotional sort of attachment to either party, thus being more maybe able to help rationalize and find a way to end the dispute.
Right. What I learned from that is being a mediator, you try to find out what the best interests of both, what each party is really trying to accomplish, what they want in the end, and what they're willing to give up. If they have very strong feelings about something, and then talking them through some of those emotions, but yet keeping yourself far back enough that you're not getting so involved that you're taking sides, right? So it is a unique place to be, and it's a tough one. It is a very tough role, I feel. Um, but just being there for the people, even letting them talk, right? Getting them to talk and talk through the situation. And in some cases they answer their own question, right? Like, oh, was that really that important to me that that I was being so tough about that. So it is a unique role. I definitely give those individuals a lot of credit for being able to keep themselves out of it, but yet interjecting enough to get to a solution.
Mhm. And then you decided, as you said, to go back to Pepperdine and get your MSML. Um, Taking a step back, just help me better understand. I know why I decided to go to Pepperdine. You could have went anywhere, I guess. What was it about Pepperdine specifically? Was it the connection you had made with Professor Blondell or
Mhm.
something else, perhaps?
For me, it was the just the general nature of how Pepperdine operates, and it's more about the person getting in, understanding the person. I felt like it was the programs that they run are getting to know about you more so in the beginning, and then okay, let's take that and apply these different concepts and all this other information that we're about to give you. So just the way that they take an investment, or they invest in who you are first, and then they add all this other stuff that will help you figure out who you are, like the Clifton Strengths, some of the other assessments that we took, just really getting to know who we are as people, being authentic and true to ourselves. That I've never had that. I've never had that from anybody in my life. I've never had that experience in any other environment that I've been in. And I've had a tough childhood. So for me, for somebody to come in like that, and it's, it's a school, to me, it shows that they care. It's for them to come in and really care about who I am as a person and what my beliefs and my values and feelings are. I felt like just really it did something for me that I can't even explain. My level of confidence has gone up. It's just been life changing.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I get it. I feel the same way, by the way. I had the same experience, so I can totally relate. And I agree. It's hard to sort of find the right words to express
Yeah. It's
what.
not just signing up for classes and then
Right.
attending and then getting a grade.
Right.
It's so much deeper than that.
By transformational.
Yeah.
Just yeah. Okay, so then talk to me about the MSML. Why did you pick Masters in Management and Leadership
Yeah.
specifically versus any of the other? I know you mentioned online during COVID, but obviously there's many other choices. What was it about Management?
Exactly. Because with my career path, I'm going towards a director level. And I want to, and that's a good leadership role, a solid leadership role that, has so many different responsibilities, as a leader. And I felt that that program, just looking at the content of it, would help me to develop that type of leadership. And it's done exactly that, right? The things I learned through that program, understanding other people, kind of letting my guard down and relying on a team because we did many team projects, being able to be transparent with these teams. I went through a very traumatic time during that program. My brother suddenly passed because of COVID, and he was younger than me, and he had sole custody of his son. And so while I was going through that, the two teams that I was working with really stepped up. Kind of chokes me up. They really stepped up and just um, covered for me a little bit, made it so that they accommodated me a bit, and were really there for me. And coming out of it, I didn't see it until soon after, but it was just so nice to see how I didn't have to be so stressed during that time about school while I was going through that with my brother. And just being able to rely on people like that, because like I told you myself or earlier, I'd gone through such a tough time that, off for years I had this wall up, that I wouldn't let other people in. And it was hard for me to ask people for help. But that one really, really stood out for me, because I needed it so much during that time. And they were so, so compassionate.
Yeah. So I think I vaguely remember that time. So obviously I'm very sorry about the loss. It is reassuring and nice to hear that your teammates picked you up during that time of need. And I sort of share some of your sentiment in that regard as far as benefiting and enjoying having that support during a difficult time. What would you say now that it's been a little over a year? Would you say, reflecting back, or maybe the top two or three most valuable lessons that you learned during that time and that you've been able to apply in your life, whether it be personally or at work?
Yeah. One of the big things that stood out for me in the very beginning, and then I used it throughout the rest of the program, was reflection time. To really take some time, like at the end of the week, maybe during my walk or at any point in the week, just taking time down to reflect on what I've done. Because I think, especially in trade compliance, we move so fast all day, every day. And then in life, with everything that happened with my brother, things had changed so dramatically. So through all that process, I ended up taking custody of his son. So, I've never had kids of my own, and here I am, a mom at 52 of an 11-year-old now. And so that's been, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And so taking time down to just reflect and see what it is that I've gone through, be in touch with my feelings and what I've accomplished in that week, because so much happens so quickly when big changes like that happen. And then I'll tell you another time it came in real handy was during the voluntary separation, being let go after 10 years. That was such a tough time for me. I didn't see that coming at all. And I was working for a company that I absolutely loved, had a big appreciation for. They'd done so much for me. So it was just so hard to hear that that was not my world anymore. And I needed to find something else. But that time, I also took time down to reflect. So what have I done in these last 10 years? Like who was I? How have I grown? Where am I now? What do you want next, Angela? This is like a door was shut. Now let's figure out what's the next step, and how can you make this, what seemed like a really bad time better. And so reflection time has been huge for me. But the next thing I would say is that focusing on my strengths. And so for so many years, I thought, you're always focused on where's my weaknesses, where am I not doing good, what am I not so great at? And there's some truth to you still want to improve those areas. But I think we as humans tend to focus on that too much. And so we're always focusing on where we're falling short. But in the meantime, we're not, really giving ourselves credit for all the great things that we've done, in doing that transition with the career. I sat down and I looked at all the things I've done over the years. And if you don't take time to do that, you think you've not accomplished anything. You're just here with nothing, nothing to go on. But when I put it down all on paper, I was like, I've done so much, and what have I learned? So again, that goes back to reflecting. So it's giving yourself that credibility, focusing on your strengths. And then as I reinvented myself and started marketing myself for this next job, that's exactly what I did. Where are my strengths? What can I bring to the table? Where's my value at? And that's what got me my next job.
That's great. Angela, I really appreciate you sharing your story. It turns out we have a lot in common. I took away a lot of the same things you did. And it's nice to have this opportunity to chat with you and realize that we have quite a bit of alignment that in many ways that I would not have been aware of. So I've definitely enjoyed the conversation. I've definitely learned a lot. And I'm confident that anyone that watches the video will enjoy it and learn something as well. Any final words for anybody maybe who's struggling and unsure as far as what direction to go and what path to follow?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good finisher there. Being my big word towards the very end of that program, or the MSML program, was authenticity. Being authentic, being true to yourself. Go with what feels right. If it feels right, that's really what I've done throughout the years. And that's always gotten me to the next step. That's always brought a lot of success for me. So that would be my advice.
That's great advice. I'll take it. Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you, Antoine.